Most people assume that when Shigeru Miyamoto sat down to make the levels for Super Mario Bros., he just fiddled around with some obstacles and bad guys until it was just perfect. But as all those painful, unfun Mario Maker creations have proved, making a Masterful Mario level is harder than you think. The problem with the vast majority of them is that they just drop you right into the middle of a cruel and unusual challenge without preparing you for it. That's not very Mario-like, unless you're counting that weird version of Mario 2.
What? That is cheap.
The beautiful thing about the other Mario games is how they guide you towards becoming an expert player. By the time you approach the end, you're pulling off all kinds of impossible leaps like it was nothing. But how does it all work? And more importantly, how can you build Mario Maker levels just like Miyamoto? For this, we're going to need to start from the beginning. Whoa, not that far back. Alright, here we are. Super Mario Bros. 1-1. You know the scene. Mario is over near the left of the screen, anxiously awaiting his first jump. But what you might not realize is that there's a very specific framework for why the opening scene is laid out the way it is. Like so many Japanese youngsters, Miyamoto liked to draw comic strips as a kid. Specifically, he liked to draw yonkoma, a kind of Japanese manga which contains 4 cells. And yonkoma has a special narrative structure to it, known as KISHŌTENKETSU. It was originally used in traditional Oriental literature. The first panel is Ki, that's the intro. Second is Sho, the plot development. Third is Ten, the plot twist. And fourth is Ketsu, the conclusion. So when he got a job at Nintendo and started designing game scenarios, he thought of them as if he was drawing manga. But how does this work in games? You can see it right at the outset of Super Mario Bros., where Mario jumps on the Koopa and gets the mushroom. First is the introduction, how to jump. Mario trots up to the first question block and jumps to hit it. Easy enough. Next comes the development, where the difficulty is stepped up. The Goomba is quickly moving in, so Mario has to think on his feet and jump on it. Then there's the twist. The game does something off the wall to recontextualize the jump. Mario walks over here and bops this block, fully expecting to find another coin. To the contrary, a mushroom pops out. He grows double his size. Think about it, twice his size, and starts busting bricks. Something tells me Mario would not be a good house guest. Last is the conclusion, where you display your mastery over your new jumping technique. Mario notices the block way up here and is naturally curious about it. There's nothing in there but a coin, but don't tell him that. But to get up there requires the trickiest maneuver yet. So in just 4 steps, the game designer has introduced the player to Mario's main move. But you're not hopping like a champ just yet. How does Mario's design guide you from modest beginnings to pulling off death-defying leaps? Well, you don't have to go far. Let's fast forward a little bit to the end of the first level, where the 4 steps show up again. And this time, they're not letting you pass unless you give them your lunch money. Up to this point, the player has done a commendable job learning the ropes, but Miyamoto wants to show them how to use dash and jump together to go far before turning them loose. Here's how he does it. 1, he introduces the idea with 2 little staircases that you get stuck between and need the B dash to hop out of. 2, he steps up the difficulty by repeating the same scene, except this time there's a pit where Mario can fall in and die, so you bravely B dash and leap over it. 3, he throws in a twist. You can B dash to jump on the upper platform and bypass the Goombas below, but if you fail to, get ready to put up a fight. 4, you prove your hops with a really hard jump. Mario climbs to the top of the big staircase and leaps way over here to the top of the flagpole to score 5,000 points, which requires a perfectly performed B dash and jump. To paraphrase the game theorist Raph Koster, good game design requires players to use past moves to prepare for what lies ahead, and the comic strip design reinforces that because you're constantly using moves you just learned to get ready for the next step. So the player comes out of the first level feeling like they own the place, but not for long, because here's where you begin to notice the 4-part structure happening on a macro scale. 1-1 is the tutorial level. 1-2 steps up the challenge challenge with piranha plants and moving platforms. 1-3 gives a twist, the twist being there is no ground. Surprise! 1-4 holds Mario's feet to the flames as he leaps between the rotating fire things. And then you start to understand the true benefit of this pattern. The whole game pulls you in and makes you good at it without you even realizing it. It's kind of like one of those electric ab belts, except it doesn't hurt. Of course, the examples we looked at today are simple, but the 4-panel framework isn't only about being a nice guy game designer who gives the player a fair shake, it's a method for exploring a game mechanic creatively. The charming little Super Mario Maker booklet that comes with Mario Maker does a great job encouraging you to be creative with this. First, Mario leaps on a springboard to ascend the ledge. Then, he uses a paratroopa for the jump. Then, he hops off a Koopa riding a thwomp, naturally. Then, he bounces off of 2 bullet bills, and you get the idea. So the need to increase the challenge and then throw a curveball encourages the designer to spice things up. And once you're wise to it, you can see this creativity bursting out all over the place. Modern day Mario games like Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario 3D World thrive on the 4-panel setup, and they are some of the most imaginative games around. Game Maker's Toolkit has a great episode about it. So there's really no excuse for those impossible levels you all are making in Mario Maker where I'm dying hundreds of times. Well, except for trolling. I guess that's always a valid reason.
Oh, Mario, you are the worst jumper ever!
So what do you think? Is KISHŌTENKETSU the secret ingredient to the joy of Mario? Or is Mario too prolific to be constrained by a single philosophy? Also, I'd love to see your Mario Maker levels. Seriously, feel free to share them with me here or tweet them at me. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe. I'll see you next week.